Hi, Nutri-D here. In preparation for 2013 East Wind Yoga Teacher Training, I wanted to interview myself and get my thoughts in order and answer some of Ryan Bailey's questions in preparation for the training itself. Question number one is, what has inspired me to participate in the training with you, East Wind specifically? East Wind, I feel, is my home studio, and in studying applied kinesiology and injury prevention, I really understand that changing the postures and having regular movement changes through the different planes of the body is essential. And I've always received the best and safest workout with the trainers at East Wind. The yogis at East Wind, from Scott Emmerich to Ryan Bailey and all of the other teachers, they change things a lot, and that's been a real inspiration for me, taking pressure off of some real points in the body that can be dangerous for yoga, such as the wrists and different parts of the body, knees, things that need to be regularly rotated. So I was very inspired to come home and do the teacher training with East Wind. What has inspired me to teach and practice and share the mat with others? Most of the people on my nutrition team know what yoga has done for me. The first time I experienced yoga, I had Stacy Whittingham come into my office, my rice bran office on the lake in Folsom Lake, and she said, "Be to my studio at 5:30." And I really didn't understand what the practice of yoga was in a formal setting. Come to find out, I'd been doing some yoga my whole life and just didn't know it. But I made it to class on time, and she inspired me with her movement and her breath. But then the second time I attended a class, and this is just in a Taekwondo studio, it was hot, but it was definitely not a professional studio. The second time was James Kapika, and I cried on the mat, and I knew I was home. I knew that this would be something that I'd want to learn, practice, and teach for the rest of my life, and my intention was to do so. I didn't know how, but I had the why, and the why is what's the most important. Secondly, I want to say that before I even got on a mat, I actually ended up acquiring a DVD, and I did a DVD, and a gentleman who was teaching said, "You're not going to win yoga." And I was shocked. Coming from an athletic background in swimming and competitions of that nature, I was always so busy focusing on other people and where their position was at, where my opponent was at. Yoga, the only opponent I have is myself. And when I stopped fighting myself is when I came into breath, and yoga became my life, and the healing began. And sometimes that time I cried and I knew I was home when I was on the mat, I want every other person I love and care about, whether they're a client, a family member, I want everyone to be able to get the opportunity to experience yoga. Both the yin, the water, the flow, the postures where you stay put and stretch, where your body may or may not be able to, in your mind, be able to go, to the yang work, the fire work, where you're really moving those muscles and preparing yourself and doing real athletic training. Both are very much a necessity for the human body and mind. What are the main elements I will try to convey as my passions while teaching others? To stay on their own mat. Number one is when I realized I wasn't going to be able to win yoga and I was going to stay on my mat, is when the real work began. I still have much work to do on myself, and inspiring others to not be afraid and get into a warm studio and let their expression, their fullest expression happen is what I'm going to express to others. I have a passion for nutrition, and I have a passion for yoga, and it brings me here today. What is my most memorable yoga moment? I think it was probably my first dancer pose. I set the intention and I went for it and I held it. And I remember the look in the teacher's eyes. I think it was my second practice, second or third, and she just looked at me and said, "Excellent focus." It was also the drishti. The drishti is our focus in one space, and being able to breathe, fully breathe and expand the lungs and hold onto that posture and keep your eyes focused. I think that those were probably my most memorable moments. I'm Nutri-D. Thank you for helping me set the intention for 2013 East Wind Yoga Teacher Training. Red button.